What's up, everybody? Welcome to primetime edition of the Canes Insight Daily podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Big week, obviously. You got the Fiesta Bowl. We're going to be talking about that every single way. A lot of guests lined up, but so much portal movement this evening. We had to jump on, do a live, talk about how these various dominoes impact University of Miami. Still got a lot more portal stuff to get into, but specifically the quarterback movement. How does that impact the Canes? What should we be looking for as the Canes look to add most important position on the field, quarterback? And it's always some drama with the Canes. Worked out really well last two times, so we're going to track this one very close. Folks will track your case close. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, hop in.
D, good evening.
How we feeling here, man? A lot of notifications, a lot of NACOS bombs in my feed. Nothing related to the Canes, which is, I think we expected to be quiet given the week and the work that's being done behind the scenes, but starting to get a little anxious in Hurricane Town. Not about the team, because the team's doing phenomenal, but about what's going on at the quarterback position, which of course has been a very entertaining process the last couple of years.
Yeah, it never fails to entertain. It's done that the last 2 years here. Entertain might be one word. Concern could be another. It's all worked out, right? So it's very difficult to really nitpick on how things have worked out here the last couple of years. But I gotta say, it's beginning to look like they're gonna have to pull a rabbit out of their hat here, D.
And look, I don't think this is scramble mode. I think the plan is still very much
scramble mode is like 10 days from now.
Yeah, 10 days from now.
Closing with like 3 days left.
But there's some stuff going on. So let's just cut right to the news of the day. Things can change real fast. We're recording this right now at 8:42 Eastern time. But as you've reported on the show, on the Discord, as I've confirmed and hearing exactly the same thing, Brendan Sorsby, the top target or among the top targets for the University of Miami at the quarterback position, Cincinnati transfer, jumped in the portal. He's been on a tour. He visited Texas Tech, visited LSU. There was a lot of LSU buzz in the agent world. Now we're starting to hear Texas Tech buzz. In fact, NACOS and Steve Wilfon, both of On3, put a crystal ball in for Brendan Sorsby. He says he's going to make his decision tonight. I don't know if announcement's coming tonight. We'll see. But I'm sure by the time people hear this, if they hear it in the morning, we'll know where Sorsby is going. But there's been no indication whatsoever that it would be the University of Miami. And we know there was interest from the University of Miami. So I know, what are you seeing with this one?
Yeah, I mean, look, Miami certainly had interest. I've said from the beginning here that I thought this was Miami's, in a perfect world in their eyes, who they'd go for and want as their first choice. But we've also known from the beginning that was going to be a very difficult battle to win there. I have reason to believe that Miami's been involved there and has had some discussions and has been trying to, work to get a visit there. But obviously it does not look like that's happening. It looks like we'll get some finality on that tonight. And it just kind of, this is the big one. This is the biggest domino to fall, I would say, obviously, D, in terms of Miami's perspective. But you're starting to see other guys that would have been, what I would consider secondary, third sort of choices that Miami might end up getting to have to consider that point. Those guys are not coming off the board now. So when I said, it's getting to that point where you might have to pull a rabbit out of the hat, that is what I'm referring to.
And look, so we got some great super chats I wanted to get to. Kirk Ranger, appreciate your support, says D and Peter. Appreciate the late night sessions. Appreciate all you guys do. Yeah, let us know if you like the late night shows. We're trying to get things, I don't want to say organized. I don't know if we'll ever be organized, but we're really just trying to kind of figure out what works best in this new year to give you all the best content organized in the way you guys want to get it. So if you guys like these late night sessions, let us know. Not always easy to do. I got kids running around, sports and all that kind of stuff, but they're fun to do, and let us know if you guys like them and what timing works. Big Bud Jones appreciates you. Says, can you guys just let us know there's a plan and we'll eventually get someone we like? There is a plan. First year of this plan, you got Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick. This year, you got Carson Beck. I believe he's up to number 8 or something like that, nationally in passer rating. 12 wins and counting. We're playing football Sunday, January 4th, still live. So that worked out as well. So that's the good news. Is these have been stressful processes the last 2 years, and the results have been beyond what anybody could have imagined. So.
And D, just talking about Brennan Sorsby, the other domino here that looks like it's going to fall as well, which it's been Texas Tech and LSU kind of musical chairs between these guys, as well as with him, Kentucky, also Kentucky's also in the mix there, which is a very interesting one. But Sam Levitt looks like he's going to be taking a trip to LSU, and from what I had been told from pretty early on here, D, I didn't see Miami going in the direction of Levitt here. I don't know that he was. I don't know the reasons, but whether it was fit in the offense, something else that we don't know. I don't think he was a guy that they really coveted. So it's hard to say like, oh, they struck out and missed. But again, we talk about options off the board, and now there's other schools that need to go make certain moves. This is another one.
Yeah, let me just break down, and you know this very well, Pete, and those of you who followed the portal, these things change very fast. I think this goes faster than recruiting, like high school recruiting, even with kids involved and like all the craziness with high school recruiting. We saw with DJ Jacobs a second ago. In the NIL era with agents, these things change super fast. Remember, Marty Brown got crystal balled like 3 different places in a day, and ultimately ended with the Miami Hurricanes, ultimately helping the Miami Hurricanes beat the Ohio State Buckeyes in the Cotton Bowl. I mean, what a journey he took. Obviously, Carson Beck later in the process, everything that happened there. So these things change a lot. With Levitt and Sorsby, just to give you an example, going into the weekend, going into the weekend, the thought was Sorsby leaning LSU. Levitt looked like he was going to Kentucky. It was going to be like a quarterback swap. Cutter Boley from Kentucky going to Arizona State. Sam Levitt going to Kentucky with Will Stein spending a lot of money. Then it comes out that he's going to be visiting Texas Tech, Levitt. Sorsby visits both schools. Levitt has some travel delay situation. Does not get to Texas Tech. This is what's reported. Does not get to Texas Tech. And then suddenly you see Sorsby getting a crystal ball to Texas Tech. We'll see what happens. He's going to make his decision tonight. And now Levitt seems like he's scheduled to visit LSU. So I don't know what that travel delay was. That was just change in the direction of the plane. But
I've flown out there. It's not an easy place to get to if there's not too many flights coming into Lubbock.
So these things are flight delays, a lot of things going on. These things are moving very, very fast with those Lubbock wins. But that's what I'm trying to get across. We're trying to keep you up to date on everything we know up to this point. So let's assume, just to go with the crystal ball, we know crystal balls. DJ Jacobs was going to Miami until the last second. He switched to Ohio State. So we know these things change. Let's assume, Pete, Sorsby goes to Texas Tech. Let's say Levitt goes to LSU. I've seen some comments about Austin Simmons. My understanding is Austin Simmons would be going to Missouri. That's what it looks like now. The backup quarterback from Ole Miss, just since we got a question about him in the comments. What do you see as far as some names that we should be monitoring? I mean, you talked about the Adidas connection on the call earlier.
Yeah, Dylan Raiola, I think that's a name that's still out there. He had some really early Louisville buzz, and they ended up taking the kid from Ohio State, which is an interesting pickup there by Braum. And it sounds like they're going to be their quarterback 1, so it's not like a situation where they're bringing him in to compete. So Raiola's one that we've talked about some of the Mahomes stuff that people will get on, but the arm talent, we understand it's there. The completion percentage has been something that's a big positive with him. I just don't know that the situation around him is all that great, man. I think that you could really see him elevate. And by the way, I think similarly, we talk a lot about CJ Bailey because of obviously the local ties and all that. But I mean, a similar sort of projection that we were making with Bailey. Obviously, it looks like he's going back to NC State there. He announced that he is. But I think when we talked about all the stuff of, hey, you give him a cleaner pocket, you give him some better weapons, you give him a real run game, a consistent run game, then it could look different. And I think, that the Adidas thing, it may not sound that important, but when NIL is a factor, he has a deal with Adidas, it has to be a fit from Miami has to want the guy. He's not coming here just because he signed. But when it comes to the actual decision that he has to make, because, hey, unfortunately, Miami has wanted a guy like a Brennan Sorsby, and it doesn't even look like he's going to visit Miami. So you got to get a guy who you got to get guys that want to be here at the same time. But I would say him, and then D, just purely speculating, and we've thrown these names out before. Ty Simpson has said, he's still making his decision. NFL potentially, but Oregon is a team that might need a quarterback, and they're going to have a lot to offer. They haven't really even come to the table as one of these teams who's in the mix here. There was some early talk about Levitt. Tennessee's going to need a quarterback. They're going to want to spend a lot of money. Heupel is a guy who has an intriguing offenses for quarterbacks to play in. So Ty Simpson, then I think he's not in the portal, but John Mateer. You look at names that possibly something could happen with, and there's a lot of things to sift through on that one. But Miami was involved there last year. They had the relationship from last year. The season ended a little weird there, had some ups and downs. I think the injury affected him. But we've seen all these quarterbacks make announcements about returning. I don't think I've seen anything from him yet. So
yeah, let's jump on that because we got 2,000 on 2,100. I mean, people are flying. People love the portal, man. I love the portal too. So let's talk about those two names. I want to hone in on them first. One of the issues, there are a couple issues going on. There's the timing of this whole deal. Miami's trying to win a national championship. Their 6th national championship, I think we've been dreaming about since 2002.
Which I'll just be I've been great in terms of my positivity levels, but I know the comment will right away be here in the comment section that Ole Miss, Indiana's doing work right now.
They sound like 6 kids, yeah.
Right, which they don't seem to be concerned about it affecting the psyche of certain guys. But I do believe they have a lot more one and dones there also in their situation, that in terms of mental guys on their roster that they don't want it to affect. And then Ole Miss has in such flux. I think they're just going mercenary style right now with what they're doing anyways. But
yeah, Ole Miss is exactly. Ole Miss in flux. Yeah, that's a great point, Pete. Indiana does not have like 5-star young players, that are
Indiana's also not paying. I mean, we talked about it before the show. I'm sure that their NIL is stronger than people realize because it's a successful, school. It's a lot of people who have success, have gone to school there, and they probably have a nice little fund going, but they aren't spending on 5-star type high school players, which their recruiting classes the last couple of years have been like 33rd and 40 something with Signetti. And obviously it's been the blueprint has worked, but that's not, they have a lot of money to throw around right now as well.
Yeah, great point. So that's that issue. And I understand the comments as to why there's concern. The two names you mentioned, Ty Simpson, John Mateer. Why are we talking about these guys? Well, number one, these players are signing contracts now. So when someone says I'm going back to school, a lot of times they're signing a contract that you can't just get rid of, right? Sometimes you can, sometimes they don't sign, but sometimes you're talking about clawbacks and things like that. I don't know the nature of all these contracts.
It's not that you can't get rid of them, but there will be money that's owed back.
Right. So it's complicated. So you talk about JKS from Cal, who already announced he's going back to Cal. You talk about CJ Bailey from NC State, who already announced he's going back to NC State. It becomes more complicated that way. So where does that lead us? Ty Simpson and John Mateer both have not said what they're going to do. Ty Simpson, that just came out today, his agent was saying he's still figuring it out. And there's a lot of portal speculation. A lot of people think that Alabama wants to roll with their young guys, Keelan Russell or Austin Mack. So that's out there. Tom Loy already speculated Oregon or Tennessee maybe for Ty Simpson because he's from Tennessee. Oregon could be potentially a fit. Not exactly what you consider a Miami guy on paper, right? I mean, just being honest. It's like Beck was from Florida. Cam Ward, just the way he talked, like the kind of confidence that he played with, he kind of the smack talking nature of his persona fit Miami. Ty Simpson's like your classic SEC guy, right? Coach's son. We don't usually get these guys in Miami, but
that's not. I mean, maybe not a quarterback. Got Brockermeyer.
That's true. And that worked out great for Brockermeyer, right? But he has not said where he's going to go. So he has an announcement to make. Like whatever graphic he's putting out there is going to be coming shortly or coming soon. Like there's a graphic that's going to go out, going to the portal, going to the draft, whatever it is, going back to Alabama. So he's still in limbo. John Mateer, same thing. John Mateer, when he lost to Alabama, made a statement to Yahoo Sports or someone like that, basically saying, I'm going to evaluate all my options and see what's going on. And I remember reading that on the Oklahoma boards because the Oklahoma boards were mad at the time and they were kind of like, well, what's he debating? He's going to go pro? Like he's not going to go pro. He had a bad end to his year. He was hurt. He's nowhere near pro ready. And is he going to go somewhere else? Like they were kind of like mocking the whole concept that he was going to make an announcement, but he said, I'll make an announcement. That announcement has yet to come. So both those guys owe.
Well, and I think as we have a comment here from Kane787, he says, no way OU lets Mateer walk. I don't think it's a letting him walk situation. I think it's he may not be too happy with how the season ended up playing out there. And some of the things that were maybe promised him in his development, which at the end of the day is the whole idea of why he made the move from Washington State to Oklahoma to help his draft stock. It was what it was this year, right? He was injured, so I think that had a big deal. But if you ask scouts about him heading into Oklahoma, and you ask scouts about him right now after the season at Oklahoma, they aren't as high on him. They were very, very excited about the talent coming into the season, and he might think that he needs a rehab year, much like Miami's done with these last couple guys. So,
and he knows Ward, right? He knows Ward being like Washington State, Ward's backup. So he saw that whole process. He knows, I don't know if he knows Beck personally, but he knows Beck's deal because he was the first one Miami courted that year. So he saw Beck kind of take his spot and he's still playing football, right? And he's getting all the protection in the world. He's handing off to Mark Fletcher. He's doing a lot of things that Mateer cannot do at his current school. So I think he's seen other people kind of take his spot to a certain degree and have more success than what he's having. So I'm sure he's closer to that situation than the average quarterback because he was recruited by Miami already. He could have gone that road, and the road worked out better for Beck than Oklahoma has worked out for him so far. And of course, Ward, he knows what happened there. So that to me is something to consider. Primetime Rambo says Mateer or Dylan, that Raiola there with Miami's O-line could be Heisman special. Yeah, I didn't.
I have to shout out. I just got a text from someone watching the show. Our boy Dolce, and he said, "What about Jaden Maiava?"
Well, he already announced he's coming back. So to me, that's another option. So I'm going to roll through a scenario I was just talking to a second ago, Pete. But first, I want to shout out my boys at Islas Canarias Cuban Express, #1 Cuban restaurant on the planet. 60 plus, not 60 plus. That's the next one we're going to talk about. But many, many years. So what's 1977? That's what 48 years serving the Miami. You like that math?
Almost 49. Yeah.
Serving.
I guess we're in
2026. Yeah, almost we're getting to 49. Yeah. Man, I can't believe that. I always get the date wrong when I was in school. I'd always write the date wrong for like a month.
I always get the year wrong, but
yeah, that's what I mean. Like
the recruiting stuff.
January,
you get the year wrong because the recruiting classes.
That's right. That's right. We're on to 27. But East Las Canarias Cuban Express, #1 Cuban restaurant on planet Earth. 7 different types of croquetas. You got the full menu, the Cuban sandwiches, the cubaritos grab and go, the bowls, loaded tostones. They got it at East Las Canarias Cuban Express right there in the Dayland Mall dining pavilion. But this is what I wanted to talk about. Some different options. We mentioned the player who has not announced draft, portal, or stay, Ty Simpson, John Mateer. We mentioned, of course, the guys that are in the portal. What about this scenario? We know that Dawson loves Emory. Emory's had that great win against Clemson, has developed steadily. Disappointing against Iowa State, but he's played well in practice. There's a lot of faith in Emory from people in the building, and he's worked hard. What if you do what I call maybe like a Dante Moore situation, and you go and say, all right, well, we haven't signed a 5-star quarterback. We have Darren Coleman, who's going to compete. Nickel, potentially competing. We have Emory, who's a veteran. What if we go and add someone else to that room who was a 5-star, 2-comma quarterback out of high school, like a Hussein Longstreet, for example? You mentioned Jaden Mayava, USC. He's coming back for another year. Houston Longstreet is a 5-star player from California that stayed home at USC, was committed to Texas A&M for a while. Best arm in the class last year. Big guy, can run a little bit. Played in packages, like running packages for USC this year. Was really not a running quarterback. He's a passing quarterback that can run a little bit. He was not very happy, I know, when Mayava decided to come back, because he thought he was going to just step in and be the starter and be the next Heisman for USC. What if you go snag a guy like that to compete with what you already have? So you're not just running it back necessarily. You are bringing those guys back to compete, but you're adding a high upside arm to that room. And now you're saying, all right, well, listen, we'll find our quarterback. And maybe Hussein Longstreet is like your Dante Moore. Now, Dante Moore sad a year.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that it's a situation that he's given an opportunity to win the job as early as now, to tell you the truth, D. If he's the guy. You know, I gotta just be honest with it. You know, I think that hopefully he comes in and he's able to, because if Dante Moore didn't have someone like Dylan Gabriel in front of him, he would have probably thought that he was starting.
Yeah, let me correct my example. I don't mean to come here and sit like Dante Moore did. I just mean to get a guy's a 5-star player. I'm
with it. You really have to have some sort of information that the guy was looking a certain way in practice too, because you have no idea what a guy looked like all year, or trust. I don't know, practice film. It's tough, man.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation.
Tough proposition. And I understand what the discourse is going to be this week, which is it's annoying because we're in the semifinal here, and obviously we're
by the way a lot of semifinal content. We've already done a lot, but we're going to do plenty more. We got a bunch of guests lined up, but
it's just, you know, Tavian St. Clair from Ohio State, Deuce Knight's another one who's already in. Deuce Knight's in the portal already.
He's my favorite, but I don't know if we go with a running quarterback.
But it's just funny this is what a lot of the people are going to want to talk about. It's understood because it's a crazy thing with the portal now, but the discussion is going to be, hey, this is why you should develop your own. I saw a comment here that said, this is why I don't like to take a gamble every year. It's a gamble every year when you go from the high school level too, for being honest. I think it's just a less of a gamble when you are now. I think that Miami is very confident in their ability to sell what they think they have and what they do have to sell for these quarterbacks, which is, as we continue to say, they're going to give you best protection in the country, best pass protection in the country, strong run game, solid weapons on the outside, and I think want to continue to get even more weapons, but at the same time, they've missed out on guys, right?
Yeah.
It's not like they've landed everyone that they've gone after here. Like the Carson Beck got to where it was because Carson Beck was still around and he still had that option.
Later, yeah.
Yeah.
The whole thing about dangerous game, like P, you said it, it's high school. Like you tell me this is a dangerous game to me. I signed this high school player. I've only seen him in practice. He's never been hit. And then I put him in a game in the first game of the year and then he stinks. That's pretty dangerous to me. You know, like you don't know what these guys can do. Like even in practice, they get hit or they don't get hit. So I agree. And I know who said the comment you just pulled up, but yeah, I mean, all 4 teams in the Final Four had portal quarterbacks. Like all the draft picks that we've gone over that list a million times. All the draft picks are portal guys. All the Heismans are portal guys. So it's like, who is developing quarterbacks? Like, who do we want to be? Like, everybody in the comments that says, we got to develop our own guys. We got to develop our own guys. Like, who do you want to be? Who's your model? What program are you like? We want to be like,
this like a comment. I just don't agree with this comment here, which is what we're talking about. Canes fan 1993 says this is why we should be grabbing 5-star / high 4-star portals each year. I think it's, you look at historically, those guys haven't been in the last 3, 4, 5 years being it for the team that they signed with out of high school.
Yeah, we can grab a Deuce Knight. We can grab a Houston Longstreet. We can grab those guys right now.
Those guys haven't played where they're at right now.
Yeah, we can go grab them right now. Those were the guys last year. So it's like Keelan Russell might. If Tyson to go back to Alabama, my whole story switches to Keelan Russell. So, as far as Chef Dade saying Dr. Moore was developed by Oregon, he didn't sign with Oregon. He signed with UCLA and played with UCLA. They got him in the portal. So, and then he sat behind another portal guy. So, in fact, he sat behind. The reason they had Dylan Gabriel in the first place was because Oklahoma signed a 5-star out of high school in Jackson Arnold. And they said, we got to play our guy. We signed him out of high school. Jackson Arnold was horrible. And then Dylan Gabriel goes to Oregon and plays well. So I think it was a Heisman final.
Cameron says this isn't reassuring on the QB situation. I'll say this. I agree with that. I will also say, and I'm not saying I'm putting blind faith right in the staff on this situation, but I will say we did plenty of shows like this last year and there was much angrier people in the comments because the situation was what it was defensively last year. And you're saying, man, was Cam Ward a one-time situation? Are we ever going to be able to build on that? And obviously that hasn't been the case, right? So that's what I'll say to that comment right there, is that we did do plenty of these shows last year. We were trying to work through and figure out what are the options. And hey, again, guys, I have to remind a lot of you, Fernando Mendoza was not a wanted man in these comments last year. So some of the names that we're trying to even work through and think about as possibilities, that if Miami were to pull a rabbit out of the hat and John Mateer ends up entering the portal and coming to Miami, I'm already seeing comments saying that he was not good this year. I know there will be a lot of right. So the hindsight vision looks a lot different right now on certain guys. I will just say that.
Canes 305 saying NC State lost so many key offensive players to the portal. Why would Bailey stay there? Their left tackle Ja'Cory Peak just hit the portal right now. You're preaching to the choir, man. If I was in charge, CJ Bailey would be wearing a UM polo and he'd be sitting in that box over there in the Fiesta Bowl, whatever that stadium is now. He'd be sitting in the box with the UM polo, and we wouldn't be talking about this. But I'm just a messenger, folks.
I'm right there with you on that one.
So while we're waiting for the latest update after we get off the show, you guys are browsing your phone compulsively, anxious. Why don't you make some money in that free time? Maybe get that money to Canes Connection now. Make it actually work for you. But KashKick.com, KSHKICK. Go to the App Store, KSHKICK. 4.5 plus average rating, 1.5 million plus downloads with the KashKick app. Surveys, browsing, playing games, the things you do on your phone when you're just trying to kill the time. Give that free time a raise and get money directly into your PayPal. All legit. Again, one of the biggest apps in America. KashKick, KSHKICK. Download today. But that's what the comments got for us here. Yeah, with what's going on? Yeah, CJ Bailey, we talked about that.
Listen, D, I'm gonna say this now on January 4th. It has not reached. We have not had to hype up a quarterback from Albany.
Yeah, I was gonna say we were not going live all the time with the during the Poffenbarger era, although you did have some pretty exclusive scouting before that Canes basketball game. He was running around. You're giving play-by-play on Poffenbarger's wing orders.
Wing orders matter. Tells you a lot about a player and their potential in the future. I'll tell you that much.
I'd love to order somebody or find somebody that's ordering at Duffy's Tavern. How about that? I know Kirk Reagan Menendez, you get a kicker out there on the stool there at Duffy's Tavern, but maybe get a quarterback out there. You know, you look on the walls, you see Jim Kelly, you see Craig Erickson, Steve Walsh, a lot of quarterbacks on the walls of Duffy's Tavern, this one is 60 plus years serving the Miami community. Look at all these pictures, man. So cool. All the cool stuff they have in there. Not to mention all the Canes pictures just littering the walls right there on the edge of Coral Gables, the home of the Hurricanes. Menu's been updated. Take credit cards now. All kinds of stuff going on at Duffy's Tavern. And me and P will be sharing. We'll be sitting on bar stools there, sharing a drink or two, talking about, I'll be sharing the same drink. We'd both be having a drink, sharing some stories about the portal as we've been doing. We talk portal at Duffy's more than anything else, I feel. That's the portal. That's a secret portal spot. We're doing podcasts right there for free.
We're getting a lot of questions about other positions and all that. This is a quarterback specific episode. We're gonna have our normal morning show tomorrow. Probably be doing, it's a travel week for us also, D. So the schedule, guys, we're gonna be. You guys are gonna see here in the coming weeks. We're going to be very regimented in what we do, but we're still playing ball, and logistics are kind of still all over the place here with D. I know you were in Texas for a few days after the games still. So we've been all over the place here, but we will have a morning show tomorrow. Talk more about some of the stuff that happened over the weekend. Portal wise, like D said, there's an element of working in silence here. You're not seeing everything out there right now. But at the same time, I will say there was stuff that was reported over the weekend by various people that at the end of the day, I think a lot of fans were like, hey, what ended up happening here? Did we whiff on a guy? Did we miss on a guy? As you mentioned, D, this schedule has also made things very interesting. The team leaves tomorrow and the staff, all of them leaves tomorrow. So the window for visits was very tight. I was told over the weekend that there was a chance that some recruiting staff would actually have to stay back to conduct some visits while the rest of the team was out there and coaching staff was out in Arizona. I don't think that's going to be the case as of right now. I checked on that a little bit, about an hour or two ago, and it seems like most of the recruiting staff is going to make it out there as normal. So I think that some of the stuff in terms of the visits may be getting pushed maybe to next week, or things are maybe kind of up in the air on certain things in that regard. But the scheduling has been interesting here with them still playing. A lot of these guys who are committing also elsewhere aren't even taking visits. So there doesn't need to be a visit for there to be a commitment. We will say that. I do feel good with Omar Thornton from Boston College there.
Yeah, which by the way, heck of a player. If he ultimately commits, we'll do a whole video on that. But I love that highlight of him knocking someone down and then doing the go to sleep.
Yeah, that was great.
We need a Jacoby Thomas replacement, not just in position, but in attitude. Right, Bryce Fitzgerald's great. We love Bryce Fitzgerald. He's a special player in my view, and in your view as well. But you need somebody that's knocking people out and just has a kind of a screw loose. And I interviewed Jacoby Thomas, great guy, but on the field, something's not right, and you need someone like that. I think Thornton could potentially replace some of that and give that edge to the defense. We'll talk about all that on tomorrow's show. Still focus on quarterback here. William Bacon at the comment. What about Van Buren from LSU, former Mississippi State transfer? Compete with Emory, similar to what I said earlier. If possible, if I were bringing in someone to compete, if I were saying let's get an arm just to compete with the arms we have and not have hey, we're spending tons of money on a proven starter kind of guy, I would aim probably pretty high on the upsides of it. I'd get one of these 5-star guys that has huge talent that you just want to see if it can click for you. Again, Longstreet is the first name that jumps to my brain. 5-star player sitting behind my eye. I'm not happy about it. Played this year as a true freshman, but wasn't the starter. Deuce Knight, my favorite of all of them. I don't know if we're going to go with a running quarterback, but someone like that where if it hits spectacular, as opposed to maybe someone like Van Buren, who we've seen play now for 2 years. Good, backup type player. He could start at some schools, but I wouldn't say his upside is through the roof as a smaller quarterback that's not particularly dynamic. I don't know what you think on that.
Yeah, man. If we're talking about all these guys, I'll go with Raiola, honestly. When we talk about a lot of the guys we've been talking about, I think that might be the one we haven't really thought about as much, or talked about as much.
Yeah,
we mentioned him a little while ago, but that one makes a little bit of sense to me, and you aren't really hearing him tied anywhere. That's the thing that's interesting about him right now.
Yeah, Louisville, you mentioned earlier, that one's out.
That one's out, but that's who you were hearing from. I think Oregon, there were early ties with Oregon. Maybe they could get in the mix with him. I could see that happening. Because remember, when Dylan Gabriel left Oklahoma, there were some questions about that one too. Like he wasn't like when Oregon took him, there were some questions like, really? Okay.
Yeah, because Oklahoma pushed him out for Jackson Arnold.
That's what I'm saying. But Oregon seemed pretty happy to get him. So, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Heatherman says, Raiola family in the 305 right now. Maybe do some Instagram digging. I know you got the social media digging skills. But
I'm starting to think on that one, D, as we sit here, man, because honestly, we were talking before the show even about what has transpired, and that one it's sitting there, man. It's sitting there.
His grandfather went to Miami, played for Miami. Someone in the comments, one of the old timers said that he was the first Polynesian player in Miami. I can't verify that, but I know his grandfather was at Miami. So that's an interesting tie. The Adidas thing's an interesting tie. I think the way he plays kind of reminds me of Beck, to be honest. His stats are pretty similar to Beck, maybe a little more fluid and flexible with what he does. I don't know if he's as good as Beck right now, but he could potentially be. My only thing there is, just some of the hoopla, which I don't know. There was hoopla around Beck, and that turned out to be BS. Once you got the kid down here and you got to know him, that was all BS. So you don't judge what Raiola is until you kind of see him on film. Just football wise, the only thing I like his game, and you look at his stats. His stats are very good for a team that wasn't functioning with Nebraska really very well. What I think you do miss a little bit is the athletic ability, right? You're kind of back to where you were this year, where the quarterback's not running. Maybe a little more improvisation than Beck, but I don't think the running threat is very much different. Beck might be a better runner based on what we saw in the Cotton Bowl. But that's the one thing with Raiola, I would say.
Yep, I would agree. But yeah, man, that's some interesting stuff there, man.
Yeah, I keep compulsively checking. I get a new notification every 2 seconds. Names flying off the board. This portal thing is crazy, man. So just so you guys know, we're going to be going on doing our usual show. And in doing that usual show, we are going to talk Canes, talk Cane portal, talk obviously the game, right? The big deal, trying to win the 6th national championship, what we've been dreaming about for 23 years. But we're also going to go around the country in the portal. And I think that's important because, and we talked about it before, me and Pete did this last year on a different channel. We're going to put it all on one channel here this year. That really, to me, set the blueprint for what the season looked like. Like all these Indiana guys you're seeing, we watched them. Ole Miss. If you really study the portal, you'll have a much better grasp on how the season's going to go. That's really the key to the season is the portal. Clemson, didn't talk a lot about Clemson. What happened to those guys? Didn't really talk a lot about Penn State. Did Penn State add anybody? Just Pena, that was it. Mm-hmm. Right? It was just Pena was the only guy they added, if I recall. They lost guys. Remember, they lost 2 receivers, and they lost Wallace, who we're going to see here.
King Mack. Did they get him back last year?
They got him back. Yeah, he's back in the portal again.
But that was,
so we'll see.
And guys, we're gonna hop off here in a minute, but I'm seeing a lot of questions from people who may be hopping on live right now. And we've talked about a lot of the guys that questions are being asked about. So if you rewind to the beginning, then I think a lot of the questions that you're looking for will be answered.
Stay tuned. We'll be on tomorrow. Continue to talk portal. Might be new news by then, man. I'm sure there will be. So subscribe. Almost 5,000 on. Subscribe to the channel. We're on every day. We're on late nights. We're on mornings all the time. Like and subscribe. Go Canes.
Go Canes.